Hello and welcome to the IGN UK Podcast. This week I'm joined by Creeper.
Hello.
And by Tilly.
Duck Hunt Pod people.
And me.
Both your catchphrases.
Yeah,
I'm
2
Alex.
in 1. Hi, Alex.
I thought your catchphrase was the same as Michael Hand's.
No.
That's good.
We're hot today, though, aren't we?
We are.
Flustered. It's hotter in London today than Athens, Madrid, Rome,
Miami.
Mumbai, but not Ankara.
Where's that?
Where's Ankara?
Turkey. It's capital
yeah.
of Turkey.
So we're recording this on Wednesday, and it's the hottest day in years, apparently,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's quite cool in the studio.
Yes.
Very cool.
But the stuff we're going to talk
obviously,
about
obviously.
is going to be red hot.
Aw.
Yes.
Aw.
So obviously this week Terminator Genisys is out. Chris, you've seen it, and we're going to talk about what you think of the film in more detail.
Yeah.
But as a little bit of a teaser, it got us thinking about what are the most pointless sequels of all time.
Not to give anything away.
not to
like
give
Chris
away.
might love this movie, but we just got us thinking, what are the most pointless sequels ever made?
Yeah. I've got lots
Well,
to talk
Chris.
about. Should we do one each? Should we go around the table, or
Go
how
on,
do you
then.
want to do this?
You start
All right, let's...
as our movie expert.
Yeah. I had lots of opinions. So one that's a massive problem to me, I've never actually seen it on principle, S. Darko, the
Yes.
sequel to Donnie Darko, which is one of my favourite films of all time. Richard Kelly's vision, he wrote and directed it, and the studio decided to not involve him at all in the idea behind a sequel. So they went ahead and made it without consulting him whatsoever. The connecting tissue was, it's about Donnie's younger sister, and they got the same actress back, but no one else returned. And he kind of urged people, just don't see this film. This is not the Donnie Darko universe.
But if you haven't seen it, could it be potentially the greatest sequel of all time?
It could. Reviews, every single review that's ever been published of it would suggest otherwise. So,
But you should have your own opinion, Chris.
I'm sure I do. No, I trust in Kelly. Like, I think fair enough. Good on you, mate. You've done a really great movie. I don't need to see someone else's version of that. So that was upsetting to me, actually, that someone could go ahead and do that.
Fair play.
First one done.
Yeah, so initially, I think it's important to distinguish in this conversation between bad sequels and just pointless sequels. Because initially, when we were talking about this, I thought the Matrix sequels. But actually, there's lots to explore in that story. It's just they did it really badly. So the one I came up with was Speed 2, Cruise Control. Because I think that's the classic example of a film being really successful, but it's a completely one-off idea.
Yeah.
It's like Homeland, the TV series. It's a really great one season. Prison Break, really great one season. But if something's successful, you want to do more of it, and then that's when you just run out of concept. And the fact that you undermine... What's worse about the sequel is, because obviously Keanu doesn't come back, there's a new character, it actually undermines the first film and their relationship and what happens, because ultimately it doesn't really work out for them. So it kind of takes a bit of the shine off the original as well. And also it's just a bit rubbish.
Never seen it.
Yeah.
Have no desire to see it.
Well, you shouldn't.
Speed on a
Pointless.
something became quite a thing, didn't it? Speed on a boat, speed on a train, and then obviously Father Ted did speed on a milk float.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best episodes.
I think one of my favourite is in The Simpsons when Homer tries to explain speed, and he goes, if there's a bus and there's a bomb on the bus, and if it goes over a particular speed, the bomb is armed, and then if it drops below a certain speed, and then it'll go off, so they have to maintain a certain speed. What was it called? I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
Good stuff. Al.
Jaws the Revenge, because there is nothing good about that film. It was a bad idea, with a bad cast, with bad acting, and bad everything.
Michael Caine is not a bad actor.
Well, he is in that film.
Yeah, because he plays both the shark and his own character.
He famously, he was asked what he thought of Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't like it, but I like the island it helped me buy.
Fair
Which
enough.
I think is quite a funny answer.
So in that respect, if you're Michael Caine, it's not a pointless sequel.
No, when was the last time you saw it, though?
Oh, gosh. It wasn't probably about 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Because I've not seen it since it came out. Am I not right in thinking that the conceit of it is that the shark remembers them and is after revenge?
Yeah.
Now, is there not something to be said for that being quite an amazing idea?
It's quite high concept.
It's outside the box.
I would say it's a stupid idea.
I think,
Not
it's very much
good
in the
movie.
vein of a Jacobean revenge tragedy. Yeah, so is it the offspring of a shark, or is it... I have seen it, but I've seen it when I was little.
Yeah, because it's...
But is it, or is not one from the later sequels? How many shots are there in Jaws?
I can't remember what happens at the end of 3.
There are scenes in the film, because the
It must be an
ex-wife.
offspring.
There are scenes in the film where characters remember things that from earlier films that they weren't present for, which I think is amazing.
Like, it's just
they have their
omniscience.
memories that they weren't there for.
I seem to remember it was offspring, but it might be a cousin or, it might be a distant relative.
nephew.
I don't know.
If it's offspring, that implies that they somehow had the story relayed to them, or have some form of genetic memory.
Maybe it was this tiny little shark saw its mother being blown to pieces by having a gas tank in its mouth.
That would stay with you if you had a brain.
Yeah, but at the same
If you had a
time-
big human brain.
But like, you wouldn't swim up to the surface and go, "Who did that?" and check out. And like, remember you?
Is that,
20 years
is
down
that
the
a
line.
British bloke?
See, now, at the moment, if I'm listening
Who
to
wasn't
this,
on the boat?
if I'm listening to this podcast and I've never seen Jaws: The Revenge, I'd kind of want to see it at this point.
Absolutely.
Don't.
One I'm going to pick is a belated sequel, which is always a problem, a belated sequel. We'll come to more of them later. Godfather 3. Now, Godfather 3 isn't a terrible film.
Yeah.
But the first two were so perfectly bookended each other, a perfect beginning, middle, and end to tell the story of the Corleones, that I feel like the third one was a folly. But then you add to that Coppola casting his daughter Sophia as Michael's daughter, who was terrible in it. Brilliant director, terrible actress. And then she's given the big death scene at the end of the film, which I was in the cinema, everyone was laughing. And this is the finale of what could have been the greatest trilogy in the history of cinema. And they just dropped the ball massively.
Because you're right, because there's something about, I guess, cinema and a lot of artistic mediums where 3 is a thing.
Yeah.
Like 3-act structure, like in art, triptychs,
Beginning,
and
middle, end.
trilogies.
Yeah.
Whereas, you're right, they do everything in those 2 movies.
Yeah.
They overreach by
Yeah.
doing a third. There's nothing else really to tell. Like, Michael goes full circle. Like,
Anyone that I meet who hasn't seen, someone younger who's never seen The Godfathers, always say, well, just watch 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You've got 2 masterpieces. Just pretend the third one never happened, which is never a good trait for a sequel to have.
No.
And the problem, the sad thing is, it's not that bad. It's 2 hours of reasonably good stuff. It's all the stuff with the Vatican and
it's not actively terrible. It's just like it adds nothing to 2 perfect films.
You could say it's pointless.
Oh, pointless sequels.
Perfect.
Are you actually? Would you going to watch The Godfather? Do you want to
You
see
really
it?
should, Alex.
No. I
It's
don't know.
one of those
Maybe I
things
should.
like
Yeah,
Like,
it's
it
better-
hangs over you a bit.
But do you
I
know
guess.
what? I've left it for so long that it's become
do it.
a bit of a thing. It's
No,
like, I've never seen The
don't be
Godfather.
that person.
I've got some
I
washing like
probably
that.
will.
I've never seen Star Wars, so I'm not going to now. No,
Yeah, that would
see
make
it.
you a
It's
bellend.
good. It's good. Everyone write in and tell Alex why you should watch The Godfather.
I've had enough people telling me why I should stick with Game of Thrones season 6, and I'm not convinced about that either.
Give up after season 2. Croops.
I'm going to go for game here. I'm going to go Dark Souls 2. Talented studio. I think this becomes more intelligible as an example after the announced Dark Souls 3 at E3 with Miyazaki directing it. Because Dark Souls 1 is widely considered to be a masterpiece, has, an integrity and artistic vision. 2, great game because it's made by the same people using the same systems. It's a great game, plays well. But everyone's like, the unified criticism of it is it feels like offcuts. It's basically stuff they had left over, stuff that they were developing and workshopping. And it sounded like 3 was always in development after 1. So what I think's happened, 1 happened, was a success. They said, we were going to make more. One team went off and made Dark Souls, which will eventually be 3. And another team made 2 in tandem. And in retrospect, what it seems like, 3's not out yet, so I can't say, but it seems like 2 was like a team using kind of remaining assets and ideas, where 3 had like, what will become 3 is the one that's been overseen by the main creative director. And it's
not a bad game.
It's not a bad game. Lots of people think it's still game of the year, and it's like still offcuts from an amazing team doing amazing stuff with incredibly talented artists. It's still going to be better than most of the stuff that's out there because there's so much average stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just, as a fan of that first game, it would be so perfect. It's almost like Godfather 3 became between 1 and 2, 1 and 3. Like, part 3 of Dark Souls feels like it should be the true sequel to the first game.
Yeah.
And in between, we're going to have this one that's still great, but
It's like 1.5.
Yeah, it's not exactly what you wanted, but probably 3 might not have happened without that, because that kept the brand relevant. People people were aware of it, and it sold well, so it made them money enough to do other projects and maybe make a bigger deal about 3. So it's maybe kind of a necessary sequel, even though I don't think it is as exciting or as original as the first one.
Because something that similar could have happened was Majora's Mask, but it was still overseen by a lot of the kind of like the key people. But that was a game that reused a lot of the Ocarina of Time assets, but fundamentally it did something different and interesting.
Yeah, really
different.
different.
It was a great game. So I'm going to skip one of mine. I'm going to go for Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. But neither of you have seen Fast and Furious.
Why is this, Alex? Why are you suddenly talking about Fast and Furious?
Because I've just watched them all.
Why did you do
So
that?
I'm now the expert on Fast and Furious.
He won't watch The Godfather 1 and 2, but you've just binged on all Fast and Furious movies.
Is The Godfather 1 and 2 in the top 10 grossing films of all time? No. That's why.
I think if you actually adjust for inflation, it's probably made more money, The Godfather, than any of the Fast and Furious movies. So.
I don't care. I'm all about Vin Diesel.
What about the facts?
So you've not seen it?
I haven't. I've only seen the last 3.
Well, it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And without spoiling it too much, because I know that you're going to go around and watch all of them.
I think you're fine to talk about Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift spoilers here.
But it has nothing in common with the other 6 films in the series. There is one link that it pulls back to, which happens later in the films. But that is only added into those films because of Tokyo Drift. If that had never happened, you wouldn't give a hoot about it. It's absolutely pointless.
But what an interesting franchise that they tried all these things until they finally found what the key was, what the recipe was.
I think that's over, like, egging it.
And
they didn't try all these things. It's still the same.
Did, though. They were like flailing around until they hit upon a recipe that actually really works for them.
But
so,
with the most diverse, multicultural cast,
I was saying,
doing wacky races.
They're all doing very similar things. They're kind of, experimenting within a narrow road.
Mm. What about the musical entry? You watch that one?
The what?
Well, the musical one.
Is this a joke?
Yeah. Not a very good one, but let me explain it a bit more. It'll get funnier.
Okay. Go on then.
No, let's cut that off now. We'll edit that out. It's fine. Rich will edit that out.
That's fair.
It's pointless, and I know people will probably enjoy it, but I hated the guy who's the lead actor.
Oh, he was the little kid from Witness.
Yeah, but I hate his accent. I'm sorry.
What accent is it?
It's like deep south.
Yes,
but it's just great.
Doesn't he pop up in the new one? I think he pops up in the new one.
I haven't seen 7.
Yeah, everyone shows up in
it. That's the one I'm missing. But seriously, do not watch that film.
Okay.
Pointless.
Fair enough. I'm going to talk about 3 now, but with the reason is the same for all 3.
Okay.
I'm going to talk Dumb and Dumberer, Son of the Mask, and Ace Ventura, Pet Detective Jr. Now, a Jim Carrey movie is a Jim Carrey movie. And will these people not learn that if you try and do a sequel without Jim Carrey, it doesn't work? He is the reason anybody goes to see all 3 of those original movies.
I'd quite like to watch Ace Ventura, Son of whatever he's called.
Oh, no, I just pulled up some pictures from it.
No, you wouldn't.
I'm quite intrigued.
It's those movies that you see but never actually watch, and they're kind of like...
Yeah, I think you'd watch 1 minute of it and turn it off, like the same that I did with Dumb and Dumberer, where I thought, that might be funny, like a prequel, see them at school, and then you start watching it, actually, no, this is...
Although, as a slight riposte to your point, on my list is Dumb and Dumber 2.
No, I agree. That's. Although I did enjoy about 10 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Over the course of the 90. But equally, like sometimes I think it's because of an actor that a sequel's pointless. So another one is Blues Brothers 2000. They waited a long time to do the sequel. John Belushi was long dead, and they replaced him with John Goodman. No one wants to see a Blues Brothers movie without John Belushi.
Yeah.
So again, it's pointless. It's a pointless exercise. So I think that there's a lot of sequels that lose the reason, the actor that made the first one.
Yeah. On a similar note, and director, I've written down the 2 Jakes. Take away Polanski.
Yeah. Replace him with Nicholson.
Yeah. Why can't Polanski do it? He's not available anymore.
he can't
actually be in the country anymore, sir. Should we still make it? Yeah, it'll be fine.
God, I'm old enough to remember that summer. There was so much hype around that movie, though. We're finally getting a sequel to Chinatown, and Harvey Keitel's going to be his brother, and it was just a bit boring, the film. I was a bit young at the time. I watched it. I was a bit young to understand. I watched it again about 10 years ago.
I watched Chinatown when I was really young. I thought it was really boring.
Yeah, it takes...
Like, you need to, you need to be
definitely.
of an age to watch that.
Definitely. Do you think Alex is old enough yet for Chinatown?
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I think he's old enough.
So I think even if you're young and you watch Godfather, there's some quite extreme violence that you're like, oh, this is exciting. Like you were like,
No, I did watch it when I was too young. They did
Yeah.
they did a televised version of The Godfather. I don't know if you know about this. This is crazy. Where they did it in chronological order. They made it into a mini-series.
oh no, I have heard
yeah,
about
and
this.
that's how I
have
watched
heard
bits
about
of
this.
it. Don't do that.
With 2 as well, with Vito.
Yeah, with 2.
Yeah,
So
I've heard about this.
It starts with Vito.
It's kind of interesting.
It's an experiment, but
Yeah.
the point of 2 is the
You find out those
juxtaposition.
parallels.
Yeah, that's a good call.
I've got a very quick one here.
Yeah.
So I was going to put Hangover Part 2, and as I was researching this, I realised there was Hangover Part 3, which I realised I had seen, and I couldn't even remember anything
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
So I think that's the very definition of a pointless sequel.
Yeah.
I didn't even know, I knew there was a 3. I've seen it. I can't remember one thing about it.
I'm all for a sequel to those films because I think the first one's brilliant. But the fact they made the same film 3 times effectively,
Where is
that's
3?
what makes it pointless.
What is 3? They go back to
It gets a bit more action-y 3, to be fair
Where
to
is
them,
it
but it's
set?
still...
I couldn't even remember. I know like 2 is the one set in Asia. I couldn't even remember what 3 is about.
No, I can't remember either.
I've never seen it. I remember kind of it coming out.
It's boring.
I've just off the same bat, and I've not seen this either. But Anchorman 2, is that a pointless sequel?
Well, see, you're spending more times, I think, with characters you really like and find funny. So I don't think some of these are pointless. I think they're just maybe they didn't nail it completely.
Right.
But I was really excited when they announced another Anchorman movie.
Yeah.
And equally, the Hangover guys, I think, are really funny. It's just, and the Dumb and Dumber guys. So it's not a pointless exercise. It's just some of these, maybe they just didn't quite, it didn't have the freshness first time around.
Yeah.
And the jokes weren't quite good enough. But there's some really funny stuff in Anchorman.
Right.
And if you...
Stuff that is pointless.
Yeah.
Every single Disney straight-to-DVD sequel.
Would your daughter say the same thing?
I don't care. I wouldn't use her as a gauge of, good taste or
They're not for
bless
you,
her.
though, maybe.
But like Simba's Pride, Return to the Sea, Ariel's Beginning, all of this tat that is made
All of this tat.
as what I would consider a cynical marketing ploy.
I agree. So they're pointless to you,
Simba's
but
Pride.
to the money men at Disney, these are not pointless. These are hugely successful,
So-
and kids love them.
Right. I'll tackle that a second, but yes, hugely successful because I bought Scarlett the Little Mermaid. I can't remember if there's 3 films or 4. Enough Little Mermaid films that you can fill your boots with. She'll watch the first one, she won't watch the others. So, but who doesn't matter? Disney's already made its sale.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those things. It was like £1 more to buy 4 films rather than
Sure.
1. So you kind of do that. But I just think, invest in new, exciting things. Because it must take a long time to make a Lion King sequel. But why would you want a Lion King sequel?
Yeah.
You don't need one.
There's 3 Cinderella movies.
Is there?
Yeah, A Twist in Time was the last one. It's like Hangover Part 3.
And
You don't
then-
remember that one?
But then the third Lion King movie, I believe, was Lion King 1.5, and it focused on Timon and Pumbaa. Which I'd be quite up for that. 'cause
Don't
I
call
like
it
Timon and
Don't call
Pumbaa.
it Lion King.
Are you being
No.
serious?
Serious.
I think I might have bought it, but never watched it because I found them funny. But it wasn't called 1.5, was it?
I like the Wikipedia.
it?
Yeah.
Just the quick
'Cause I was
search.
just checking it, yeah.
This just did a quick search for Lion King 1.5, also known as Lion King 3, Hakuna Matata in some countries. And the movie is about the fictional characters Timon and Pumbaa. Thank you for clarifying they're fictional characters. No point did I need reminding.
I really want a meerkat. It's called Timon.
One piece of news that we could have mentioned actually at the top of this is the fact that Back to the Future will not be getting a sequel in Robert Zemeckis' lifetime. Have you seen this story?
His lifetime?
Yeah, Robbie
Yeah.
at the Daily Telegraph spoke to him this week, I guess, and asked him about, because Universal had so much success by bringing Jurassic Park back.
Yeah.
Asked him, well, that this will be next in the Universal vaults. That's another $1 billion movie potentially, and I believe that they can't make it within his lifetime. He still owns the
something that
rights,
he's- right.
And that he was saying that I even have to check that if my family still retain the rights, that over my dead body was basically what he was saying, which
I
is
can
great
just
news.
imagine the conversations that are happening in a Universal.
How do we kill
boardroom.
Zemeckis?
Exactly right. We need that $1 billion movie.
We've already cast this.
But yeah, that would be one though, wouldn't it? If it were to happen, it's a great concept that you could do so much with. But man, all you could do, I think, is just sully the.
Yeah, because I think all the charm is the
reputation of
very
the original.
specific character stuff. Like, otherwise, just make a time travel movie. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Whereas I think Jurassic Park, a lot of the lure is the concept.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Back
Yeah.
to the Future is the people, it's the
Yeah.
characters, their relationships.
definitely.
So if you're retreading them, what's the point?
Most definitely.
It's the same with Lion King. That, it's all about the concept.
Yeah.
It's high
And
concept stuff.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
So,
Fictional
think-
character Simba.
for me, the most pointless sequel that I can remember seeing is Weekend at Bernie's 2. Do you remember the film Weekend at Bernie's?
I do remember it. I've never seen it.
Okay.
I've seen your fancy dress.
Yeah, sure, I did actually fancy dress as
Because I
Weekend at
thought
Bernie's.
it was Bernie Eccleston.
It's quite savvy actually to go. If you, I know you don't dress up as Bernie, but if you went to a party and dressed up as Bernie, it's quite good if you pass out. Like, people can just carry you around.
So for people that don't know, Weekend at Bernie's is about a couple of guys who stay with this rich guy in this rich guy's like holiday house, and he dies. But rather than tell anyone, they decide to like keep it a secret so they can stay the whole weekend. So they kind of go around town with him, like with their arms around him, and he's dead.
Right.
like propping him up.
I understand your
Outfit a bit more.
fancy dress now.
Yeah.
No, it just really wants a threesome.
I feel like they explored as much as they could of that storyline in Weekend at Bernie's 1.
So what happened in Weekend at Bernie's 2?
I believe it was something to do with voodoo, where he got kind of half brought back to life, and he was like a zombie. But really,
That sounds good.
as far as I was concerned, it was pointless. That story had been the Weekend at Bernie's story had been told to its natural conclusion, and it was pointless.
Fair play.
But we're going to get more pointless sequels to a degree because now, sequels have always been a thing. Like, if a film is successful, we'll make another one.
Yeah.
But we're also now in an era of, like, universe building. So it's not just about, like, one extra movie. It's about a whole range of additional movies.
We'll go through the summer movies released this year, and there's not one. I don't think you'll find one that's not based on it's not a sequel, a prequel, a remake,
Connected to
or
stuff.
based on a ride or based on a book. I don't think there's a single original movie. I'm sure there is. The Pixar Inside Out's
Yeah,
the original. But there's one or two. Everything, even Tomorrowland, the most the big original blockbuster, that was based on a ride, inspired by a section of Epcot Centre. So yeah, it's just going to keep going. This.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, we should go back and, like, check it out because obviously more films are maybe made today. Like, the adaptation isn't new. Obviously, there's more things now that you can adapt from. I wonder, like, what the percentage of adapted movies back in, like, the 50s was because a lot of adapted musicals, a lot of adapted books. Yeah. That's always been a thing. I wonder if it's
I can guarantee you now there are less original screenplays being put into production than at any time in history, because the studios are just getting more and more nervous and wanting a sure thing.
Yeah.
Wanting toys that they can sell off the back of it. They want a franchise rather than take a chance on an M. Night Shyamalan or something with a Sixth Sense, that kind of thing.
But at the same time, you look at Tomorrowland, for example. I can't imagine people go, "I've been to the Epcot Centre ride. I must go and see that film."
But equally, like Battleship, what I don't understand why they had to
I
buy
played
the
that
rights to
board game.
Battleship and build a game
just
of
do
a film around. You could have done
war
any
movie with it. It's
Yeah.
Independence Day, like.
It's weird, but there seems to be this fear of doing anything that's not a recognised name, no matter how small. Like remaking old TV shows and things, when you could just, I don't know. It's a bit depressing, actually.
Yeah.
I can kind of understand the logic though. Like if you're investing a huge amount of money and someone's like, "This is already popular,"
Yeah.
but it's weird. Like Battleship, it's like. Yeah,
that makes
that's
no
not
sense.
That's not transferable interest.
No.
Just because some people might like buying Battleship, that is no way approximate to a film starring Rihanna.
Yeah.
Like,
God, it made no sense.
I've got a couple more.
Okay, yeah.
Just very quickly. Home Alone 3 and 4. Like Home Alone 2 kind of does what the first one does, but in a different location.
Pigeon Lady.
By the time you get to 3 and 4, it's like, good God, all right, I get it.
Yep.
And then my last one is a game, Duke Nukem Forever. That should never have been resurrected. The only reason it was resurrected is for the likes of Dan Kilby.
I know, we need Dan in here to defend it.
Yeah. Bad game,
He
bad
loved
idea.
all this stuff.
Should have existed. Well, not existed, but 12 years ago.
Any others, Creeps, before we...
I'm good. I think I've spent all
You're
my best
spent.
ones. Like the other one thing, We didn't need Cars 2. I think John Lasseter really really loves Cars. So,
but that's like Cars is one of those things that
I thought Cars 2 was better than Cars 1.
I've never watched all of them all the way through because they're not great films. But similarly, kids love it. That's why they did it. 2010, sequel to 2001. What a pointless waste of time that was.
I'm yet to watch that because I've only recently watched 2001 for the first time. I heard 2010's great.
It shouldn't be anything to do with the 2001
Right.
universe.
I keep meaning to watch it now that I've seen the first one.
I love the fact that you had to watch the first one to watch. There's no reason to.
But still,
watch
you don't
one.
want to.
Got to do your homework.
What, did you watch all of the Fast and Furious before watching 4, 5, and 6?
No,
Sorry,
but
5 and 6.
I didn't
No.
really care about them.
Well, there you
I had to do the blooming junket.
Unbelievable. You're not committed. Anyway. So that's it. That's our list.
Chris's face then, not committed. He's like,
Let's move on. I'm done with this conversation.
Most pointless sequels of all time. But does The Last of Us 2 fit underneath that?
I don't know. So one thing, this week Nolan North was at something called MetroCon, and we had him in here about a month ago. He's got some videos going live soon on IGN, and he's a really charismatic, garrulous chap. And if you set him talking, he wants to please a crowd. He's a showman. So in front of this audience at this convention, he revealed lots of stuff he probably shouldn't have said in public.
Yeah.
And one of the things, by accident or whether he just wanted to give the audience something, he said that Naughty Dog, he says, I know they're working on Last of Us 2. Yeah. Which is something you could probably infer maybe they're doing. A successful game. Yeah. But it's a singular story. They've created a world where maybe you can do other narratives within that. Yeah. Joel, there's a passage of 20 years or so maybe you go back and fill in a chunk of time. So there's stuff they can do. But, some people, I think they just find... I think it's easier, big explosive action game. It's easier to understand how you can iterate upon that. Whereas something more kind of tender and emotional, it's
kind of tricky.
Do a sequel on that.
Because in terms of what you'd want, I wouldn't want the same story told with two different people, which is effectively if it's this is also happening over here, let's go and follow their journey. It could potentially be the same thing.
It's a much more delicate
You'd either want the build up to it or...
I think it should be something completely different, which is basically what continues is maybe one of the characters in a different period of their life and the same accident has befallen the world. So it's the same world. So it's another story.
Really tricky.
It's like Fear the Walking Dead. It's gonna the spin-off series. It's another story from within that world.
But I think the thing about The Last of Us that I enjoyed was the characters, was the story, not necessarily so much the mechanics of the game. Yeah. And that would be my concern. I agree. Making that bit the interesting bit.
I agree, but I feel like they can maybe, the same talented people, they can maybe fashion another set of characters. Yeah. And what I guess why you like those characters and the situations they found themselves in is because the extreme nature of their world, that normal people kill each other and serious things happen. It's the same as Walking Dead. Normal people are put in extreme situations and they behave in extreme ways. So I bet they can dream up a new set of characters, or maybe have some of the supporting characters take lead roles in a sequel. So I think you'd have to play it, before you decide whether it was necessary or not.
I'm not saying it's going to be pointless, but I'm just saying I'm very happy with where it is right now.
People have taken that stance where just dismissing it out of mind. Yeah. But there's a lot of really talented people, so I'm sure they can make something.
Naughty Dog is an extremely talented developer, and seeing what they've done with Uncharted 4 is there's something special. Yeah. Sorry, just going back to pointless sequels of all time. Currently, I'm feeling the same with Hannibal season 3. At the minute, I don't feel I think the end of season 2 was perfect. So season 3 isn't.
I think this is pointless conversation. Continuation.
I don't care.
Just a little 2 sentences without going spoilers for Hannibal, because I know you've not watched it. I know a lot of people haven't. Obviously, what happens at 2 changes the structure entirely. Yeah. And I think we're going to have 3 or 4 episodes of bedding down into a new rhythm. But something's coming this season, if you've watched any trailers, which I think might put it back into a more familiar structure. Yeah. Because there's a villain coming.
Good.
This week we also saw the first kind of, not leaked pictures because it came from the director, but the first pictures from the new Ghostbusters film. So we saw pictures of the outfits, the overalls. Did you guys see that?
I did.
All hung up.
Not quite as cool as the originals, personally. Yeah. But I thought the Proton Pack looked badass.
You say not as cool as the original, they're still beige overalls.
No, they're not. I think they're more brown if you look at it, Daniel. They're a lot more.
Well, with the new ones, they've got a nice like orange trim.
I was about to say they're a lot more coordinated because the orange trim that's on the suit actually ties in very nicely with part of the orange trim that's on the proton pack,
Nice.
which I thought was a bit. Is that a kind of thing? Is trying to make a nice outfit?
It's a bit more. Well, they might be up and running for years now. Whereas in the
Maybe.
original, they just kind of get they're
Like thrown together.
a startup. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's a franchise like Dunkin' Donuts or something.
But I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah,
If you look at the kind of commercial strain of like Jurassic World,
Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters could be across like America.
I think it's a very strange decision to tweet that out this week, a year from when it's coming out. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be shooting on the streets of New York this week, and to get the jump on the paparazzi shots of them, they've done an official one
In light of Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
But that's Suicide
I wonder if
Squad.
just that's the way of it now, where
You
the film
own it.
companies are going to
Yeah.
so they won't have the same impact.
Yeah.
Also, like, Zack Snyder has been tweeting pics of Batman versus Superman for bloody months.
Yeah, because you're right.
So-
You've got a nicely lit picture, high res,
Yeah.
so people know what it looks like under optimum conditions.
Like, how late after the official shot? Well, did the official shot come first on Suicide Squad?
Of what?
I've seen so many. Well, the cast in.
The cast was pretty early.
Yeah.
But did we see it before? I can't remember because there were so many pictures and so
I
many.
can't
leaks.
remember
No,
the
we
order.
saw-
I mean, I had a list of it.
We saw
saw
the
the-
Joker tattoo picture before we saw any
That's right,
Joker on
yeah.
set, because there was the whole maybe the tattoos aren't going to be part of the real thing, and then we saw the leaked pictures and they were.
I know I got called an idiot on the superhero show for saying that.
He did. Sorry
that
about
the
that.
tattoos would be part of it. Someone told me I was an absolute idiot.
It's quite clearly for the 75th anniversary
Yeah.
of the Joker, Chris.
Turns out they were for the movie, so sod you.
Not that you're bitter.
Just don't like being called an idiot. But yeah, that's all very exciting.
I think it's going to be a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Paul Feig's really funny, and the girls are really the girls that I know, because we don't really get SNL over here. I don't actually know two of the women in it that well.
Yeah.
But
But
trust in these
Bridesmaids was
guys.
Very funny.
Yeah.
I've never seen Spy, so I know they got mixed reception. Some people
loved
really
it,
liked
yeah.
it, and you saw it, didn't
And
you?
Gav
No,
hated it.
I didn't. I didn't see it.
Right.
No.
Oh, it was Gav. That's right. Yeah.
But Lucy loved it, who reviewed it. So
Yeah.
I've heard mixed things on it. But I'm well up for more Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
But what worries me more is this idea that Ghostbusters is suddenly a universe of loads of things. Like, I think the concept of Ghostbusters is brilliant. Like, I love stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm excited for it.
Let's talk about the good stuff, the rum and the bum stuff, or in terms of this week, toss and boss.
Yeah, because rum is bad. You didn't understand that.
Rum is definitely good.
So yeah, I was going to talk about Amy, the
Is that-
M1
is that
House
toss or is that
documentary.
boss?
It's very, very good. It's sad. Can we have a
boss.
separate section for just
Oh.
a bit
Toss, boss,
loss?
or your loss?
It's loss because we lost her. I saw the Amy Winehouse documentary called Amy. It's by the same guy that did Senna, and I'm sure we're only at the halfway mark now, but I'm sure it's one of the best films I've
Has
seen
he
this
ever
year.
done any happy ending films?
He's done,
He
he's
did
done,
Weekend at
he's done
Bernie's too.
He's done a bunch of narrative films that I've never seen actually. So I know nothing of them. But he's made two.
You know what's going to happen at the end of each film? Oh, she's going to die.
Well, they're quite similar in theme, the two films as well, aren't they? They're kind of sort of tragic geniuses.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just it's very long, but it's a brilliant film, and it's about 5. I'm trying to write my review at the moment. It's quite a hard one to write about, but it's about 5 films in one, because it starts out so happy and light, and it's like a success story, and it's like almost like a romantic comedy, but then it just gets darker and darker until it honestly felt like I was watching a horror film. When you start just the change in this same woman in the space of 2 years, and how she looks and how she talks and how she behaves. And obviously you know what's coming, but you can just see you're watching someone die in front of your eyes, and it takes quite a long time, and it's just like the last 40 minutes of harrowing.
So to clarify, it's all like proper footage. It's not like
It's how did you see Senna?
Yeah.
So it's done in the same way. So it's all stock footage, and it's like with her, it's home movies, camera phones, backstage footage, concert footage, news footage, everything. But of course, she's in an era now where the smartphone existed, and so a lot of stuff with her and her mates just messing about. But then the last sort of half hour is a lot of paparazzi footage, which is of course part of the reason, part of the downfall of this story.
Yeah, that's why it probably has the effect of feeling icky and.
Long lens photos of her in rehab and stuff, and it's like, it's a really well put together film. I know her Her dad is very unhappy about it, and I can see his point a little bit, but equally, there's no defending some of the stuff he did. And there's 3 villains in it, basically. It's the dad who had good intentions, but, ultimately he saw dollar signs as well in the opportunity that she brought about. And then, there's the fella Blake, who I think we all know was a wrong 'un. And there's this guy called Ray who became her manager, and some of the things he says just makes you feel a bit sick.
Yeah.
Like, I did all I could. We got to keep her out on tour. It's up to other people. It's like,
wow,
you were you were the person that she was depending on, professionally,
managing her.
Yeah. So,
she a member of the 27 Club?
Yes, she is. She's one of that generation. You're one of those people that died at that age.
Yeah, like Santa's awful. Like this, like I imagine it's the same, like kind of just grim inevitability when you're seeing this stuff and the tension of it is horrible. When he's like arguing like we shouldn't be racing in this rain.
Mm. Yeah. Well, you hear her friends in the film. They were begging, them to not let her go on tour. But the manager and the dad were like, "Oh, we've signed these contracts. She's got to go." It's like, you're killing this girl. That was at the time when they were told if she just had a seizure. If she has another seizure, she's definitely going to die. And the dad says, "Well, she's agreed that she's going to go off to Holland to do this gig."
As I was going to say, as a parent, good God, that's valuing.
But as the keyboardist says in it, by this point, it was well known that she was receiving £1 million for some of these live appearances.
Right.
So everyone had a vested interest to keep her on tour.
But still.
It's sick. I will give a plug. Me and Gav, I couldn't go in the end, but Gav went. Secret Cinema did a special screening of it, so thanks for inviting us to raise money for a charity. They did it in Coco nightclub. They turned it into a jazz nightclub and had her old band playing some songs. So, Secret Cinema X is really good. We're going to start supporting them, I think. Like, kind of Secret Cinema, but raising money for charity. I think that's a really good thing. But the film will be out by the time this podcast drops. So, and even if you don't like Amy Winehouse, I think it's a really powerful film. And you also just see what a nice, funny girl she was before it all went down.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. Like, the media portrayed a particular type of person. Yeah,
and she started playing up to it. But the early stuff is like, you'd want to have a pint with her. She was hilarious.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry to bring it down, but recommending that film. Alex, Arkham Knight.
I know. Well, so I haven't been on the podcast for a couple of weeks, and I was talking about, because last time I was here, the review embargo just lifted, so I was allowed to talk a little bit about it. But now, Krupa, you finished it.
Yep.
If you haven't finished the game, I would probably skip the next 3 minutes of this podcast, because we're not going to talk too in depth about spoilers. But I still think it's probably the best Arkham game that's out there. I think the Batmobile gets way too much flack.
Yeah, I don't think it's that often.
But everybody is talking about how it's kind of ruining the game for them. And I just think, it's not as interesting as some of the other areas of the game, but it's not game-breaking.
I think it's specifically when it transforms into a tank.
Yes.
And becomes a slightly different game. But most of the time, if you want, you can zip around Gotham as Batman, which is what I did. Because it feels quicker to me. I don't know if it is, technically, but it does feel quicker.
Well, it's more interesting anyway.
Yeah, and some of the tank stuff goes on a bit more than it should. It kind of outstays its welcome, and the platforming section's a bit silly doing it in a Batmobile. But I actually enjoy driving the Batmobile around and like sliding around corners and chasing vehicles. But it's weird to say the Batmobile isn't cool. Like, it's the Batmobile.
Well, that's a lot of the criticism was it doesn't feel like it should exist in a Batman game, but it's the goddamn Batmobile. It's like, and I love the way that it kind of interacts with Batman, and the way it kind of unfolds.
It works really well.
Back, and
I like
when
the design
the
of it
engine
as well.
revs up, it's just like it feels like really kind of badass. Yeah. But I think the other important thing about it is I think it's just a really cool story, and I'm not going to talk about the Arkham Knight himself or how it ends, and we've both been there and we've talked about it. But I just think there is 2 versions of the end, one of which you haven't seen, but it's just a very interesting story, which
it's also
is very satisfying.
It's a late Batman story, so it's like a Dark Knight style story where it's him facing the end days. Yeah. So it's a story of consequence, because it's Rocksteady's last Batman game. So they're like going all in. Like, we've done a trilogy, and they've had each part is a very specific period in the story, and it's had looking back whether they always planned it, but they've managed to create a through line across the 3 games. Ignore Origins, and this is like, it has closure. It has impactful stuff, because they don't have to make another one now. They can just walk away, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Like, of course, somebody can come back and make another Batman game, but I'd be surprised if it was Rocksteady.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think I'd want them to. I feel like they've kind of done what they can do to that franchise perfectly. I'd love to see them do it with another DC character, like Superman, for example. I'd love to see what they could do with Superman.
That'd be amazing.
But if you haven't got Arkham Knight, you should.
Nice.
Last piece of
Nice.
boss stuff.
Boss stuff. Marvel's entire roster of comic books are getting relaunched later this year. You're going to have issue 1s of everything. Post Secret Wars, the Marvel Universe is going to get consolidated in some kind of interesting way. So universes are currently colliding in Battle World, and post Battle World, you're going to have an entirely new single Marvel Universe. So Peter Parker, Spider-Man is going to exist side by side with Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and it means that everything's getting relaunched. So if you want to start
Is it kind of what they did with the New 52?
It's kind of what they did with that, and although New 52 is going to fall back in with the old stuff now, I think what they wanted to do with this is some parts to kind of bring it more in line with the cinematic universe. So the one Nick Fury is the Black Nick Fury.
Yeah.
So people who want to segue from the films and go to the comics, there's kind of more recognizable stuff. But also like to incorporate the stuff that was siloed in a separate continuity that's really popular, like Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And recently things like Spider-Gwen, rather than just being ghettoized like in this kind of alternate continuity, have them in the main continuity so they can play with all the major characters.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, but I just wanted to see some of the cool comics that are coming. Doctor Strange is going to have his first series for like 20 odd years, which is not... He's never really had a strong series for ages. He's had a few mini-series. It's going to be written by Jason Aaron, who currently does the Star Wars comic. Makes sense they're doing that because the film's coming next year. He's going to be a big character for them. Ant-Man comics kind of continue with Nick Spencer. That's really, really funny. It's a really funny offbeat comic where it's like a dad just struggling to be a dad, a single dad. It's really funny. The Vision's getting his own comic as well. And
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of the X-Men titles are getting stripped down. I think there's only going to be a few of them instead of loads. And there's going to be a lot of Inhuman stuff. So again,
that makes
it's
sense.
supporting where they're going with the cinematic universe.
We got the first feedback on Ant-Man as well. There were screenings of that this week, weren't there?
Oh yeah,
And
positive.
Yeah.
I think
Which, for a film that could have been a disaster, is
Who,
really
who,
refreshing.
who's that from?
a lot of journalists in
Yeah, I
America
saw
were
people
allowed to
tweeting
tweet
about it.
reactions to it, and they're all pretty positive.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, looking at it, it looks like it's a good 1-2 with the Avengers. With the
Also-
Avengers is so big and so much stuff, this feels like quite...
Yeah, James Gunn tweeted about it. He did
saw
quite
that.
long a Facebook post, I think.
Because that's something I thought this will do really well on the site if I post it. But then I thought it's kind of like a Marvel
he's gonna
director
say
saying he
that.
loves
Yeah,
another Marvel
of
movie.
Of course,
that
but
they were making around
kind
the
of-
same time.
I don't know. I quite like James Gunn, so
Yeah, he's funny. He's funny, and he said it was the best one
also-
since Iron Man, didn't he? That was his
yeah,
shout.
yeah. And also, there's still strong influence of Edgar Wright in there, stuff like that.
I
And,
wonder
you
how
know,
much that's going to take. I bet it's going to take a lot. It's just
Oh,
that he's
I'm
got
not
the
sure.
Marvel...
I'm not sure.
I don't
It's
know.
more-
It's a weird name. Like, hasn't got a
that might
broader
have-
appeal.
Word of mouth,
How
I
did
guess.
Guardians do?
We'll see. I don't think the trailers have been as mind blowing as the Guardians trailers.
I
were.
agree. I haven't had that, like
So-
the musical hook or something like that. where
Yeah.
it's- Although I saw a couple of clips, I kind of don't want to watch any more now because it's very rare that I see that
No, I
little
agree.
of a film.
I agree. I've not watched
But
any
I watched
clips.
the clip this week where it showed more of the miniature stuff.
Yeah.
It did look pretty amazing where it gets shrunk in a bathtub. Yeah, I'm going to say.
But
it more.
even you describing that as like, people are just like, that sounds rubbish.
No, I bloody love Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So,
Quite a lot of pointless sequels in that
So-
franchise.
I've got one other boss thing actually that I'm embargoed. I can't talk about.
Oh.
But I did notice this week that Roland Emmerich, the director of Independence Day Resurgence, tweeted a photograph from the set which said, "Oh, look at these entertainment journalists I got to play real journalists in their movie," and I was in the photo. So one can only imagine that I might have gone to
might
New
have been
Mexico to shoot a scene for Independence Day Resurgence, which I couldn't possibly mention on the podcast. But
you know who's going to love you telling that story? The guy who writes into the iTunes review section about us noshing each other off for getting jobs in the media.
But yeah, I do have a funny story to tell about that, but I don't know if I'll be able to tell it till next year. But
Oh, well, you must remember that.
Seed it early,
I will.
Chris.
I will. But yeah, I might tweet out the photo. It's quite a funny picture.
Wow, that's so self-indulgent.
Hey,
Look, everyone, here's a picture of me tweeted by a famous director.
have you been in an Independence Day movie?
don't want to be an independent.
Yeah, everyone says that until you get the offer.
until all Rollo comes calling.
That's what you're going to... Have you got a speaking part?
Well, there were visa issues that meant I couldn't do a
Yes,
speaking part.
exactly. So you're just there going...
No, I do shout the line "Madam President" quite a lot, although I'm already saying too much.
Ooh.
But yeah, you might hear me in loud English going, "Madam President, Madam President."
Yeah,
I was kind of playing up the English accent.
It's a legal alien.
No, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not supposed to because I'm not supposed to talk about what.
Madam President, Madam President.
Shit, no, I shouldn't even have said that.
What are the aliens doing this time?
Can we bleep this?
No.
If you could only be in one TV show, though, what would it be? I don't know.
That is the weakest link.
The weakest link?
Yes, that's
You love that?
Yeah,
Goodbye.
I love Anne Roddick.
Have you got any toss stuff, Alex?
Yes, I have. Did anybody see the very last episode of Top Gear?
You know what? I was
only
vaguely aware of it, and
Yeah.
because we've talked about us all losing interest in that show a while ago, it just wasn't really on my radar.
Was it an hour and a half? They stitched it together?
Yeah, it was 2 episodes stitched together. Yeah.
Just because they didn't bother filming the links because they do that on a weekly basis.
Exactly. All the links, all the star and reasonably priced car, all that kind of stuff didn't exist. They'd shot. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 segments as separate stuff that would have appeared in the show, but they didn't trail it that much. And I think I just kind of thought, oh wow, the very last episode is on this Sunday, but there's been no build up to it, but it kind of made me sad on one hand because it really demonstrates how, like, when they get stuff right, they got it really right, and the kind of some of the segments that they did were brilliant, but obviously Jeremy Clarkson couldn't appear to do the links, so it was just Richard Hammond and James May standing in the empty studio.
Oh God.
Being a little bit somber about it all, and it was just like those bits were awkward watching and really kind of
I don't want to see
contradicted
that.
with the kind of the cool stuff that they'd done.
The bants.
And
In happier
you know,
times.
they kind
Like
of
Jeremy
done.
died.
Yeah, it did feel a bit like that. Well, they had this kind of giant elephant statue as
I
the
heard
elephant
that, yeah.
in the room in the background, but I don't know. It just felt a little bit like, what a shame that such an amazing TV show. And I did
conclusion.
feel that I don't think the show itself was became tiresome, but I just felt the dynamic between those three was a bit like, I get it. You're the kind of slow one. You're the fucking and that's still all the way through.
So have they confirmed that they're going Netflix? Is that
No.
That's just word of mouth.
It's ITV is what it looks like.
Oh,
yeah.
is it ITV? Oh,
Yeah,
I hadn't seen that, right.
I mean, I don't know if it's fully confirmed, but it looks like it's sort of 99% they're doing a show for ITV.
Surely ITV haven't got the kind of budget to do that
commercial.
kind of stuff. Yeah, but still.
I don't know.
But yeah, I guess.
But maybe ITV might do a deal with Netflix.
But also,
or
like
they want to do a deal
ITV,
with.
but the thing is, suddenly they can syndicate that around the world.
That's
so
where
it's
you
like
make
chicken
the
egg
dollar.
thing. Like
Yeah.
they'll make loads of money
Yeah,
out of
Yeah.
that.
But I like I've said, I've been quite open. I love Chris Evans, so I'm looking forward to seeing it change and be.
So is that
like,
confirmed? I'm totally out of the
that
Top
is
Gear loop.
confirmed, yes.
Anyone else?
no, just Chris Evans. He's also confirmed that he's doing 9 new episodes of TFI Friday.
As well as his
What year
radio
is this?
show and the one show.
What year is this?
Depressing.
He only does one night on the one show.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
Good.
Which how's he going to do that?
That's why that other guy left, wasn't it? Was it Jason Manford did it?
Did he?
They've
then
not,
they
they've
just
not
like-
thought this through. So what night do you do the one show? Friday. Do you want to
That is a bit weird.
do?
Yeah.
What day of the week do you work Friday?
Surely. he's
I'm
not
sure
thinking-
one's probably
Not
pre-recorded.
not our problem.
Not our problem. But anyway, equal parts sadness and good, interesting television.
Yeah.
What's your biggest toss this week?
My biggest toss is Terminator Genisys. I watched it this week with not high expectations, not low expectations, with an open mind. Didn't really like the trailers. Didn't really think it needed a sequel. James Cameron filmed that video. I quite trust James Cameron. He was like, "This is a great Terminator movie." I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I enjoyed the first 20 minutes, but the rest of it, I just got increasingly annoyed with. Big problems. There's big problems. The plot is way too convoluted. Way too convoluted. I didn't know what was going on for the last 45 minutes.
But that even I felt like elements of that watching the trailer, because the trailer was shown in front before Jurassic World. And even that was like, whoa, this is like a 3-minute trailer, and you're getting
So
complex
much
already.
overlapping stuff.
And the genius of the Terminator is the simplicity of the first movie. You know, it's a smart sci-fi concept, but one that you can understand quite easily.
Yeah.
The second one, they made it a bit more complicated, but not too complicated. You could still understand it, and it was more action focused. 3 and 4, whatever. We've all kind of, you know, no one really rewatches those. But this one, it's just such a mess of trying to be all things to all people that I genuinely didn't know what was happening at the end, and I stopped caring, so I stopped concentrating. So that's part of the reason I didn't know what was going on. But it was just like white noise to me. And via that script, there's a lot of jokes in it, a lot of which fall flat. Like I was telling you, Arnie's character's called Pops all the way through the film. They call him Pops, and it's like funny. It's like, no,
And that's
funny.
And he's still the original robot from T2 that becomes good. We're getting spoiler territory.
Yeah.
Why does he get older? Is that explained?
But yeah, I think that's out there as well as the fact that they have to make up
the
a reason.
exterior.
Yeah,
ages
is
as well.
like flesh that
Right,
does age,
okay.
whereas his interior doesn't. I mean, there's so many things though they make up for the sake of making the plot work. You know when you get those sci-fi films where they just make up words and things, and then that's the reasoning, that's the logic, and you're like, no, you've just made that crap up.
Like Metachlorians.
So that your plot work. No, it's that stuff. There's lots of things like that
Yeah.
just like, nah, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
You're saying it's a thing so that your plot makes sense. And then the acting is not good. It's really, I think some of it's badly cast, and then some of it I just think they've been given bad things to do. But Emilia Clarke is trying her best. I don't think she's a terrible actress, but man, she's not Sarah Connor. This is supposed to be basically the same Sarah Connor that's in T2.
Right.
And man, you don't think this is the same woman as such. You know, because she's tough. She's been waiting for this day to change the world, and like, it looks like, and her face and her looks don't help, because she does look like a teenager
Yeah.
playing this.
She's not like grizzled enough.
No.
Like she hasn't been through the.
That toughness just doesn't come through that Linda Hamilton has. And then Jason Clarke, who's such a good actor, he just doesn't work as John Connor. It's because of the things he's given to do as John Connor. It's a thankless task. If you've seen the trailers, you know what his character kind of is, and it just...
That's so weird. 'Cause
It doesn't work.
Linda Hamilton's so good, and like, well, she was like the robot in T2. Like, she's the ruthless killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then bloody Jay Courtney. I'm not a fan of his anyway. That guy is a charisma vacuum. And he's kind of the lead in the movie, and he's just a waste of space.
It's good that
really.
he's getting cast loads of movies then.
Man, so yeah, Suicide Squad next. He's just getting cast in the lead in all these big, because he was supposed to be taking over Die Hard basically.
Right.
He was in the last Die Hard playing McClane's son.
Oh, okay.
Just a waste of space that guy is. You just don't remember him as
I was
soon as he's
gonna
off
say,
screen.
I don't remember.
No.
I remember seeing it, but I don't remember him.
Suicide Squad next for him. So
Captain Boomerang.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found it to be a massive
too explained.
disappointment. And then a lot of things they didn't bother explaining, because they're just kind of leaving it till the next movie to tell you things. And it's like, no,
Oh, is it
piss
confirmed there's another one coming?
Well, the plan is for another trilogy, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't... Yeah, this is supposed to kick off another trilogy.
Oh, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if we never see that second movie. And so, actually, some really big questions this film asks will not get answered, which is just... It's downright disrespectful, I think, to the audience.
I can't see it doing well, because it's riding off the back of 2 pretty rubbish films in 3 and Salvation.
Yeah.
No one has... The hype around the trailers has been poor.
Yeah. It's whether there's still an interest in seeing Arnie do a Terminator movie, and whether maybe...
But I would have said that's our generation, and I'm not, and I don't think...
No. It's gone,
Well,
isn't it? It's been and gone.
yeah.
I'd rather just watch T2 again.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen
do.
it for years and years. I'd rather just do that.
Man, it works on every single level. It works better, including, I feel like, some of the effects even.
I was going to
T2
say...
I mean, the
so
effects aren't
good.
bad in this, but
But the T-1000, or
Used
what
to be
looks
discretion.
like the T-1000, you know, the kind of molten metal
Yeah.
dude, looks exactly the same as the guy from
know.
20 years ago.
I know
however
he's
long
doing
it was.
similar things.
Yeah.
Apart from that thing where he
The
chucks his
spear.
arm.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I bet there's nothing as good as the thumbs up as well.
There's a thumbs up in there.
Of course there is, because where have they got that from?
There's a lot. So much of it was done in T2 and done better. So anyway, that kind of peed me off
Well,
this
that's a
week.
negative.
You know,
part.
you know the bit in T2 when she says, "And this robot was more of a father than any other." Oh, that always makes me choke up. I mean, he's helping him load up all the guns. Oh, Okay.
So yeah, that wasn't something quite so good that happened to you, Chris, but something positive did happen.
Yeah, something really good that you probably should have mentioned at the top of the show, but you didn't. So this will be a surprise to people.
That's what we like.
So yeah, about over a year ago, I was a bit tipsy at a party, and I saw David Cross, the comedy actor from Arrested Development, who plays Tobias. Alex knows him from the Alvin and the Chipmunk movies.
He's better known for that, I would say.
That does come up in our conversation. I've seen him do stand-up, actually. That's where I really like him. And I didn't really want to talk to him because he was talking to other people, but my girlfriend just marched up and said, "My boyfriend wants to talk to you," which was really embarrassing.
Oh
and so
my
I went
God.
over.
I would have been just ashamed.
It was really embarrassing, but luckily I'd had enough to drink that it wasn't that big a deal. And we were chatting about his new film, which is called Hits, which is just hit Netflix. And so I've stayed in touch with him, and as he's shooting his new TV show in London at the moment, I asked him if he'd like to come in. So he came in, we chatted for over an hour, and we'll put the full version up next week. But for now, I've kind of cut out a few bits. We're talking about his new film Hits, which is in the middle. I don't think I mentioned the title in the middle because we talked about it earlier. So, but also we had a really good chat about Arrested Development, about really interestingly, like talking about the problems with season 4. Did you watch season 4?
No, but I know all about it.
Quite hard to watch. So we had a chat about that, season 5 potentially happening and whether it could make a movie. But also we talked about some work he did on Destiny that didn't actually make it into the game. So let's hear what he had to say.
Yep.
And I was saying Netflix has been quite good to you because also that's the company that brought Arrested Development back. Mm-hmm. Was that something that was a surprise when that happened? Obviously, people had talked about it ever since it ended. But was it like a pleasant...
When it became official, that was a surprise because people had been talking about it and the rumors had been out there. And I knew that Mitch was talking to Netflix. And I know Ted Sarandos from Netflix. We go way, way, way back before it was what it is now and when it was just, distributing DVDs. I mean, way, way, way back. And he's great. He's just such an awesome, down-to-earth, real guy. And it's really satisfying to work for good people and decent businesses, decent people, no bullshit, no ego, a really pleasant experience, which hopefully all of them should be. And of course they're not, because you get people who have egos, who they care about money. They don't care about art. They're not fans of anything really, except for money. So it's really nice to be able to work with people like that,
And was it nice getting back into Tobias's head?
It was a little frustrating that I didn't have the opportunity to interact with a lot of the other folks in the way that I used to, where it was more traditional show, and Tobias, like a lot of people, would weave in and out, and my story in that season 4 really, I had, I think, one day I spent I had one quick scene with Will. I had no scenes with Michael, one quick scene with Tony, couple quick ones with Alia, and none with Jeffrey. I mean, outside of there were like 2 family scenes, which we shot, and that was really fun and exciting, but a lot of the stuff I did was outside of that, so that was a little disappointing. But that's literally the only negative thing I could say. I mean, it was
the structure was unusual for that series, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it made sense because of one, the Netflix model, and 2, the availability of people. It was really when you're doing a series, you're contractual. That's what everybody's focused on, and Arrested became second or third position for a lot of people. I mean, Jason's making movies now. Michael's huge, and various people getting everybody together was exceedingly difficult. And half of not half, but a third of the actors don't live in LA, live far away.
Right.
Tony was doing Veep in Baltimore. Myself, Jessica, and Jeffrey live in New York. I think Michael Cera was starting to base himself out of New York. I mean, there were a lot of people. It was really scattered and pretty crazy, and so that was quite difficult, and that dictated in part why it was the way it was.
Why do you think Tobias is such a popular character?
I mean, what Mitch writes, and Mitch and Jim and the writers, it's really clever. He's just this side of really stupid, you know? And he's you take any of the Bluths or the Funke's out of that situation and put them in any other situation, and they're absurd. They're ridiculous. They can only function in and amongst each other, you know, except for Michael Bluth, basically. But you know, they just get to come up with these really clever, because he's so stupid and deluded, and kind of pompous too. And you get to put things in his mouth, so to speak. That's actually something Tobias might say. That these things get to come out of his mouth that wouldn't work and would be arch and ridiculous, but they actually make sense in that context, in that scenario. Yeah, I mean, people. I think if it was, you know, the Tobias Funke show, it would get old really quick. By episode 3, you'd be over it and not interested. But as a sprinkling to come in and
steal the scene,
inject this this absurd thing in this already absurd world, it works really great like that.
And they've announced more for next year. Is that something you're?
No, I don't know.
Well, Brian Grazer, I think, said the other day that they were going to do it. But
okay, I mean, yeah, sure. People said that for years. It took years, and I said I'll believe it when I'm on set.
Yeah.
And I've got that mustache on and some ridiculous outfit. And somebody says action, but until then. But I would love to do it, of course.
Do you think they're characters, though, that they could be revisited every few years, sort of infinitely?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With that writing, the writing is so strong, you know. And, you know, I think the season 4 got kind of a short shrift in that there was so much pressure, and it was a completely different construct, and I think people had a difficult time getting past that, and it took me until like the middle of Job's episode, which is kind of the middle of the right around the middle of the what are there 15 episodes, something like that, to really figure out how to watch it and get comfortable with it. And because I saw it and all the other actors saw it the same way everybody else did. We only saw the premiere at the premiere, the first 2 episodes at the actual premiere, and then we all went home and watched it because we didn't have, you know, we weren't with other people's scenes, and stuff out of context didn't mean a whole lot, so it unfolded for us the way it unfolded for anybody else. And you know, it was they did so much work in making sense of it and threading these and weaving these stories together, and those moments that the first 3 seasons had of oh wait, in season 2 episode 5 he says this thing and he's wearing that thing, so then you see it later. Like, there was so much of that layered into this that I think people missed it because they weren't comfortable with it being different and new, and they didn't like it, and it clouded their ability to enjoy it. And I say that with a little bit of experience because, as I said, it took me a little while to figure out how to watch it. And then once I did, I thought, okay, I need to go back and watch this again because there's stuff I'm not getting, and I know how to watch it now. I know what to look for. I know what to flag up, and I think people didn't get that far into the thought process of it, and it just was, you know, disappointing for some people. Not everybody. There are some people who loved it and appreciated it, and it grew on them. And I definitely think with time, people will come to appreciate it for what it was. Having said that, I, like a lot of people, missed the elements of what the first 3 seasons were like. But I like both things.
And do you think there'll ever be potential for a movie, or do you think its home is on TV?
It's if anything, if any of these projects like Entourage or whatever that are TV shows that get turned into a movie, Veronica Mars, whatever, if anything can, I have 100% confidence in Mitch and Jim and those guys to pull it off. I mean, they're nothing short of genius, and I believe that if anybody can do it, they can do it. An Entourage movie to me is a head scratcher. A Veronica Mars movie is a head scratcher, and Arrested Development is kind of a head scratcher too. But if anybody can do it, if anybody can say, here's this experience that's better than watching it at home, you need to go to a theater and watch this, I believe it's them. And they'll figure out a way to make that, to justify it being a movie.
Tobias the action hero?
No.
Okay.
Can't imagine.
So you've directed now, obviously you've acted, you've written, you do stand-up. Is there one that you prefer of the 4, or do you just like to keep
catering? I like craft services. I like filling up that peanut bowl. I've been asked this before, and I'd say at the when you look back at your work, writing is the thing I'm most satisfied with. The thing that gives me the greatest satisfaction in that I did this. There was nothing there. There was a blank page. And I know how difficult it is to write, things that are not just merely let's throw every joke on the wall and see what sticks kind of scenario, but actually write a story, make sense, have the dialogue seem real, have characters who don't sound similar to other characters, and I know how hard it is, and to this idea that there was no idea there, and then you came up with this whole thing. I think that's the thing that gives me the most satisfaction, that I have the most respect for in other people. The part that I enjoy the most is editing. That's the most intellectually the most fun to because there are always problems. You miss every single project. There's hundreds of different reasons why you didn't get this shot, or this thing didn't happen, or you're in the edit and you realize, nobody realized this guy's not supposed to be there yet, we can't have him there, whatever the thing is, and you have to figure out a big problem. There's not one project I've ever done that didn't have that, and then finding that stuff in the edit and finding those solutions is always such a great moment. And in the edit you can completely redo your movie. This was much funnier initially. It was the script was funnier. Our first few cuts, the hipsters from Brooklyn, it was funnier by half. It had more lots more laughs in it, and I screened it. We had a couple screenings for friends and people in the industry that I could show it to, who knew how to watch a screening. It's temp track, it's not scored, the sound's all wrong, it's not colored, whatever. And the biggest overall note I got from comic writers and filmmakers, and they agree. And it was shocking, but they were right. And it was hard to take, but they were right. Was this thing is too funny. You've got this other really cool story that you're burying in the comedy, and the tone seems off. And so the editor and I went back and we took a lot of the comedy out. We made a bigger balance between Caitlin's story, and I'm really happy with where it is. And I think it somewhat suffered in that people approached it thinking, oh, it's going to be this comedy, this laugh out loud crazy thing.
Yeah.
Oh, David Cross, the guy who's on this thing and did that. and it wasn't, and you don't want to open up want to tell people like it's not that funny, but I found myself doing just that, because a lot of the criticism of it wasn't that funny, but it's not supposed to be that funny. I mean, the funny stuff is supposed to be funny, but I mean, we went out and took out quite a bit. There are whole scenes that I fought against myself. My gut knew that they had to go, but I was just trying to cram them in there. These scenes at the diner that because the diner scenes were used to show the passage of time. So when we lost those other scenes, we had to figure out a new way to show what day it was, how long they were in there. That's why there's two in particular, like terrible things that I hate, where it's like a shot of an exterior of a motel and we had to have actors ADR dialogue over the motel shot. And it's just for exposition to get you. It's because we took this other stuff out that was there that served a purpose beyond just being funny. And they're really funny scenes, but I had to get rid of them just because it made the movie as a whole feel different, And there was this whole thread of this story that had a payoff only in this thing that we wrote and we shot and fully intended to do after the credits, like kind of a where are they now? But because the movie kind of shifted in editing, we had to take all that stuff out because it made it too silly. And so you lose kind of a payoff to a thing where Donovan and Maddie can't have a kid and you don't know why. And the reason was going to be because, you're sitting there going, well, wait, is he gay? He's gay, right? What's going on here? And but the payoff was that they refused to have a child until same-sex marriage was legally, recognized in the United States. That's the reason why they couldn't have a kid, which is something that Charlize Theron said, which I was like, what? That is, or she wouldn't get married. Sorry, she wouldn't get married until same-sex marriage was federally recognized. Yeah. Like,
that's a good excuse. That's a good excuse to use.
That's a clever. That'll keep you going for a while.
Have you got any plans to direct a movie anytime soon?
I have two scripts that I'm working on. One is much further along, and the other is not as far along. And they would both be for me to direct. It's easy to direct something I wrote because it's all up here, and I know what I want, and know what I need to get it, and what is and isn't a waste of time. Who knows when I'll get to that. I have, when I'm done with Todd Margaret, which will be late August, I have another pending project for a TV show shot here, or in Bristol actually, and if that doesn't go, then I'll finish the movie script, but also I'll work on a stand-up tour, which I've been so busy I haven't been able to really concentrate on, and I'm not good at multitasking. I can't. I need to focus, and then so I would just focus on that, get that tour together, make it different than the last couple tours, and make it tighter. No more 2.5-hour shows, self-indulgent bullshit like that. Just tight, show, go out, do that, and that.
Does this mean you don't have any time to play video games?
I do play video games. It's my probably the greatest guilty pleasure I have. I try to justify it like I'm working on my hand-eye coordination, Mom. But I also don't finish that many anymore. I used to really, not that I was a completist and had to do every side mission and pick up every flag and coin and whatever, but I found myself less and less giving the game less and less time. And I guess it's just part of being older and, playing games since I was a kid, but I know what I like, and if I'm halfway into Call of Duty and I don't care, then I just sort of put it aside and just move on, you know.
You voiced a couple of games. I know 2004 was a big year for you, from what I could see. Halo 2 and GTA.
Yep.
Is that something you didn't take to, or it was just, you know, you had other things going on?
Grand Theft Auto, I accosted a guy at some party in...
like me with you.
Yeah, it was in... I was at some New York, you know, I was at like Lit or some place like that, or some like kind of downtown hipster bar. I was pretty f***ed up, and somebody said, "Oh, that's I think it was Sam from Rockstar." And I was a huge Grand Theft Auto fan, and I was like, "Oh, I love that. You know, next time you're doing one, let me know. I'll do a voice. I'll do it for free. I just love that game, blah, blah, blah." Just drunkenly. And then we set it up, like, whatever, months later. It's like, yeah, I'm actually in the middle of doing... Because I think I knew they were doing San Andreas and had heard about it and read about it. I was like, please, I'd love to be a part. But I couldn't even get through my missions on playing the game. And the character's meant to be annoying and kind of nasal and giving you shit. And... so it was really difficult. I just skipped my missions. I couldn't listen to myself anymore.
That's terrible.
And I did get through it. And then Halo was fun. I did some other stuff too. Oh, I did Brutal Legend. Huge Tim Schafer fan. I thought Psychonauts is, you know, one of the most underrated games criminally. It's just a really smart, beautiful, cool game. So I met Tim. I think I was really hungover, and but came in and did stuff for Brutal Legend as well, and I think that's it. Yeah.
And recently, have you been involved with any game in any way, shape, or form? Maybe you and another comedian I'm thinking of.
Yes, you're referring to the pre-interview we had in the hallway as we were walking in. Brian Posehn and I got asked and jumped at the chance of we were flown up to Bellevue, Washington to do a punch-up on the Ghost character in Destiny about a year ago. And we were both very excited about it. They did not use a single solitary thing we wrote, which is a shame because we wrote some stuff that, you know, we're gamers, and I would imagine somebody somewhere said we can't inject this levity or humor into it, but it's a shame because I played Destiny quite a bit. I haven't played since I've been over here working on Bob and David, but you know, when it came out, I was way into it, very excited about it, and you know, when you're in hour 20 of that thing, it's like the Ghost is kind of monotone saying this thing. We must get over the ridge. You know, that's the Cabal. We gotta defeat them. Whatever. It's boring as shit. And you know, I speak for myself and Brian, and I know thousands, if not millions, of other gamers who'd be like, yeah, it'd be nice to have a joke or something in there. What do you think? The tone? We're gonna f*** with the tone, you know. But it was very exciting to go up there and get paid to play a video game, you know, a year before it came out or whatever it was. So that was fun.
Can you give us a flavour of any of that Ghost stuff that you were writing, like the approach you were taking?
Oh, I mean, some of it was sort of self-referential. Mm-hmm. And it was just stuff that was making us laugh. We were in a room and we'd play a lot, and then again, some of it was kind of winking to gamers. I truly don't remember any of them. They were just sort of riffy one-liners that both Brian and I were coming up with.
Missed opportunity.
I think so, yeah. And a lot of them, not just, I mean, we're there for a couple days, so we, you know, offered a bunch of stuff up. I mean, you know, you find the crate that you got to open, like, do something with that, you know. But it was just like, there's a crate, open it, you know, or whatever they ended up using, but anyway.
So that was David Cross, but he doesn't talk about chipmunks, so quite frankly, I couldn't give a hoot.
David cross about his lack of appearance in Destiny.
As you would be.
See what I've done there?
As you would be. Right, let's shift over to reader feedback. Who's up first?
Kyle Chester Marsden, who's written in and said, "Hey guys, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what I think is a terrible idea." Ooh. So this would potentially be in the TOS section of our stuff. A big cinema complex near me is claiming to be the first in the UK to offer 4D films.
Right.
I even said it wrong there. Such effects included in the experience are the film in 3D, smells, wind, water, air, bubbles, and varying temperatures. Now, for me, these things work best in the right environments, and by that I mean offering it to a 10-minute short at a theme park or something similar. Mad Max had the same offering at somewhere near £18 for a ticket. Is it just me who finds it way too gimmicky and would ruin rather than enhance the experience?
So,
I like the way he says smells.
Go through the different editions. So
the film in 3D.
Well, that's I understand that. Smells.
We kick off with smells.
So how does that
like
work?
petrol.
Because this is not done in conjunction with the filmmakers, presumably.
No,
this
I would
is a
imagine
local
not.
cinema interpreting it itself.
It's been done before, though, and this was in conjunction with the director. But when John Waters released some of his indie movies in the 80s, he gave out scratch and sniff cards.
Okay.
So when there's a dog poo in it,
I don't want
I once
that.
did that for children in need. I bought that at a petrol station, a little scratch and sniff card. They all smelled the same by the end. I was doing scratch and sniff EastEnders.
Oh, God.
But would it not be quite funny for a horror film or something like that?
To smell what?
A dead body.
Blood.
Maybe
Why?
not that. I don't know.
Why would you want to smell that?
But I guess it's
What
like,
else?
I guess in the seat in front of you there's like a little atomizer or something that just sprays a
I
scent.
bet you it's not that sophisticated.
No, there are sophisticated versions of
Okay.
this. That I know you're imagining like some dude just running around with a little...
No, I was thinking it's more cinema wide that they're pumping it in through the
Okay.
aircon,
Wind.
rather than like individual.
Wind.
Well, that's just somebody with a hairdryer blowing it in your face.
Someone
The
breaking one.
version you're imagining is really annoying.
And then like Mad Max, they've got like sand that they're
Petrol.
lowering and blowing in your
So
face.
I imagine this would be like, we've all seen the new Mission Impossible trailer. When he's on the side of the plane, you'll have air blowing into your face
but
when
then
he's on
your
the
eyes
side of the
start
plane.
watering, you can't see it properly. You're like,
And the air all thin.
You're having the experience that
that's
Tom Cruise would be having in the film.
what a load of horse crackers.
What
What are you going to do there? Like,
Sprays of water.
if it's raining?
Yeah. Or
It's such a shit
if
idea.
you're watching the Poseidon Adventure,
like massive buckets of it
drowning.
slowly filling up.
Air. I'm not sure how air is different to wind.
You can
I think
breathe.
that's the same.
Bubbles.
Like, how many films have got bubbles in?
Again, we're back to Poseidon Adventure, aren't we?
Well, but I wouldn't say
Finding Nemo.
it's bubbles per se.
And varying temperatures.
Okay, that just feels
Oh.
like our office. And
So
people are going
when
around
I
telling-
first saw Pirates of the Caribbean at the cinema in Manchester, in the Arndale Centre, before we went into Pirates of the Caribbean, said, "I just seen it. It was in July, August." They said, just so you know, the air conditioning's broken.
Okay.
Everyone went to see the films. And everyone went, "That was fine," and they took some money off our tickets. It was sweltering. Did it add to it? Not to my enjoyment, but it did feel more authentic.
Yeah.
Did you
It
tear your
was
jeans
sweating.
off?
Yeah.
Like little cut-off jeans.
But like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, I'm trying to think of one here. When they go into hell, it's suddenly the temperature goes up.
But
Day after tomorrow, it's freezing for the
Fair
whole
enough.
thing.
Ideas around these. Would you pay to go and see that additional experience?
Once.
I would not pay.
No.
If I was invited for free, I would check it out. And if I enjoyed it, I would recommend it and maybe pay the next time. But for me, it sounds ridiculous.
I feel like all the films we're
absolutely
saying though are like
ludicrous.
disaster movies. Like, I think
Okay.
you'd work well with like a film that feels like a ride. So I think they did this recently in America, like a sophisticated version of this for San Andreas, where things are moving.
Yeah.
And I feel like that.
Yeah,
I could get
okay.
behind, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
feel
going to
like
go
that.
watch.
I feel I agree with that kind of. I know I've read about this before. More like a
D-box.
roller
So,
coaster.
yeah, and then
yeah,
there's,
yeah.
I think there are effects like air pressure and stuff like that, jets of air. So where it's like the film, it would like kind of add to that experience.
We are becoming a society, I think, that's increasingly going to experiential cinema though. Like Secret Cinema, each one's making more and more money. Now, fair enough, they aren't. It's not this kind of thing happening during them. It's before and after. But I do think that we might, in film studios' attempts to get people out of their homes and away from their big tellies and into cinemas, if I wonder, and I always think, like I just said, horror might be one where you could do something quite interesting in a cinema to scare people that's not just based on what's on the screen.
Well, one of my favourite ever cinema going experiences, and this is, in retrospect, this is a lame version of what you get people paying en masse for. It's just a little bit extra. I saw one of the first cinema trips I went to as a teenager with a bunch of my friends on a Saturday afternoon was the Brendan Fraser Mummy.
Yeah.
And midway through, one of the cinema attendants dressed as a mummy ran through the audience.
Awesome.
But it was great because it reminded me of when I watched Stephen King's It, and they all went to the cinema as like kids in the 1950s watching I Was a Teenage Werewolf, and stuff like that happened.
William Castle was the guy that did them.
Yeah, and like kind of with skeletons flying through the audience and stuff like that, and the shocker and like it's weird stunt like thing where it doesn't kind of adds to the event of going out with your mates and having a laugh and I like stuff like that.
Because I saw Jurassic World, I don't know, 2 weeks ago on the IMAX screen at Leicester Square, and I thought that was just outstanding in terms of that felt like
quality.
A different experience from just watching like on your local cinema where the screen is obviously it's big, but it's not different. But because they showed the trailer for the remake of Man on Wire, whatever it's called.
Yeah, The Walk. Yeah.
But like I was properly there going like, oh my God, like feeling
That was awful,
that vertigo, and it was horrendous.
Effective.
And that, I don't think you need gimmicky stuff like that to be effective.
Sure.
I think, that to me was
Cinema
just like,
itself,
that was completely absorbing, is watching that on the massive screen.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, good email.
Yes.
That got us all thinking and talking. That's what we like.
I got an email from David Binmore who says, Duck Hunt! Was wondering, he says it like that. Was wondering who you thought had the best press conference out of the big three. He's talking about E3. I felt Xbox One made more of an effort to justify owning their system at this time, dedicating most of the conference to... Owning their system at this time, dedicating most of the... Anyway, he thought Xbox was the winner. I thought Sony had the biggest fan-pleasing conference. I'm not necessarily saying it was the best, but... it ticked a lot of boxes if you were not just a PlayStation fan but a gamer, like having Shenmue in there and obviously Final Fantasy and obviously Last Guardian. That stuff appealed to me more than the Xbox lineup. What about you? You were there.
I thought Microsoft did it. Like, it seems weird to call Microsoft an underdog because they're Microsoft, one of the biggest companies of all time. But ever since the Xbox One announcement, they've always been playing catch up to Sony because Sony were the competitor brand and they could counter message and be cooler and more daring. But I thought like Microsoft like just ticked every box. Like they announced really kind of fan pleasing things like backwards compatibility and early access and like PC friendly stuff, which is cool that console gamers never had. And then at the same time they would go Gears of War, but then segue to like, oh, we've got like this Recore game and like more interesting stuff. I think they were just really diverse and like ticked a broad set of categories.
Yeah, but there was nothing in there that I was like, that's the one game that I want to play. Yeah. For me, anyway. And then obviously there was Nintendo, which just a bit of a disappointing show. It wasn't bad, but when they've got so much exciting stuff coming out,
they're becoming a different they're still coming out of the cocoon, I think, and going to come out as a very different company on the other side.
I think, for them, maybe E3 is becoming less and less relevant because they've already got a brilliant platform to talk directly to all of their fans through Nintendo Direct. So,
so my email is from Sam Williams and it kind of follows on from Microsoft. PlayStation Plus has always arguably had better free game offerings to consumers over Xbox's games for gold. But with Xbox announcing backwards compatibility for Xbox One, do you think Xbox will offer great Xbox 360 games to Xbox One owners to try and convince them that games for gold is the better deal? So just to catch you up if you're not aware, backwards compatibility, if you already own that game and they've said it's backwards compatible, you can just download it. When you put in the 360 disc, what you actually do is trigger a download from the store. You're not necessarily playing it off the disc. I think so, yeah. Okay. And also there's a very select number of games. Like I looked at it the other day, it's a very small amount of games. So what he's saying, I think, Sam, if I'm not paraphrasing, is free games for the gold, they might start offering really great 360 games that are also backwards compatible. Yeah,
because obviously a lot of the stuff that you get on PS Plus is either Vita or PS3. Yeah. And if you've only got PS4...
You get like an indie game a month.
Yeah.
At least.
In theory, yes. I just think, up until now, the Games for Gold package hasn't just been comparable, I would say.
I think it'd be great if every month they dumped like 20 new backwards compatible games, and they said 3 of them are going to be part of the Games for Gold.
Yeah.
Because until like 3 years' time, when there's loads of great Xbox One games, that's a really cool way to like beef up your collection.
Well, that's it. Like, imagine if you got like, I don't know, Red Dead or something like that. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, because you've never played it. For instance, you might be like, oh, there you go. Get on
And
with
that's
that.
it. Like, all of my old gen consoles are all packed away.
So yeah, maybe Sam, as the Joker says, it's all part of the plan.
Last email from James Isles. On last week's pod, a listener wrote in asking about audiobooks, so I thought I'd share some recommendations. He says, Paddle Your Own Canoe by Nick Offerman. Ready Player
He's
One.
funny.
Is he?
Yeah, he's the guy. Have you watched Parks and Rec?
I haven't, no.
Good.
Ready Player One, Ernest Cline.
I read it.
Supposed to
It's
be very
a
good.
fantastic book. Plugged it a lot on this show, and hopefully Spielberg will be doing the movie.
It's one of the reasons he was at E3, apparently. I saw him walking around the show floor at E3.
Oh, wow.
And I think the rumour was he went to see No Man's Sky. And one of the reasons why, because he's doing Ready Player One, similar sort of concepts, procedural generation, and so on. Yeah,
Awesome.
he was surrounded by people. And all these nerds were... And I'm one of them. I'm classing myself as a nerd.
He's God.
People were going, Stephen! And no way they're ever going to get to him.
No. Kanye was there as well.
Yep. Apparently, like when he was playing Street Fighter 5, he had a team of people that erected like white sheets around him, so you can take pictures of him playing the game.
We've heard a couple of stories about Kanye, but unfortunately we can't talk about them on
Oh,
the podcast.
can you tell me afterwards?
I can tell you afterwards. And then if you ever meet us down the pub and get us drunk, then I'll tell you there as well.
We can be found in the Crown and Two Chairman every week.
Most Fridays. Also recommends World War Z by Max Brooks. Completely different from the film. Obviously the book is completely different.
Very.
If you go to IGN.com, you can find a video of Max Brooks telling me and Chris how to zombie-proof our old office, which is good, useful information, but not for us anymore since we moved office.
And this is a good article that Chris Tilly wrote about Ready Player One. About what a great book it is.
Written by who, sorry?
Chris Tilly.
Chris Tilly, he's good. He's good.
Movie editor.
He's good, Chris Tilly.
Is that
Star of Independence Day Resurgence.
Tilley?
Yeah, that's so funny.
Last but not least, Batman Nightfall. It's a BBC radio production of the Nightfall story arc, which I never knew existed in audiobook form.
Me neither. Good effort, James.
It was a strong influence for the Nolan brothers when they wrote Dark Knight Rises. It's a really good trilogy of books, Nightfall. Very, very good.
I might give that a listen.
Anybody who likes Batman should definitely read that. I've got it in my drawer if you want to read it.
Yes, I'd love
Is
to.
it eaten by the mice?
Maybe. I haven't changed it in a while.
Because you put a bag of Doritos.
No, I never did that.
Oh wow! Now it's on record.
Okay. We've got a mouse problem.
Is that it for this week?
That's it.
Can I do a little plug? There's a film out this week. Terminator's out this week. Amy's out this week, which is really good. But there's a little horror film called Housebound, which I absolutely adored. My favourite horror film of the last couple of years, probably. It won't be on at many cinemas, but if you get the chance to see it, really do. It's a bit kind of Sam Raimi, Evil Dead-ish. It's kind of funny, but really touching, and it's really good.
All right. So that's it for this week's podcast. Thank you, as ever, for listening, and we'll be back same time next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.